Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Department of Family and Sports Services 2018 Technical Assistance Webinar. We're going to do this webinar this morning into three parts. First, we'll have Walter Brown. He will go through the budget that'll be needed as part of your contracts. We'll have Nicole Roche from Contracts. She'll come on next to talk about the contract needs and requirements, and then we'll end with our program needs for 2018. So without any further ado, let me take it away to Walter Brown.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go through completing the budget form, and we're going to start off by showing your contacts should you have any questions when you're completing your forms. So to start off with the supervisor, myself, is Walter Brown. There'll be two accountants that you can contact, Arthur Barron and Anthony Bruce, email address as well as telephone number, and then finally there is Muriel Buckner, the accountant. So in order to complete your budget form, your budget, you would have to know the forms, and this is what this slide indicates, the forms that are required to have a complete budget package. So forms required are Form 1, being your summary page, Form 2, your personnel budget page, and Form 3, your non-personnel budget page. Now, the thing to note with these forms are the forms are all linked, so you want to note this note here, the budget forms are locked from editing, and data can only be input in the shaded areas. And notice how the shaded is yellow, because on the forms, go ahead, Victor, change it. On the forms, you're going to be able to see that the shaded area is also yellow. So only portions of the form that you will be able to input data in is those areas that are shaded yellow. So here, as you'll see, this slide gives you the purpose of the form. Again, we will go through the note. What you want to do in preparing your budget, and you want to keep this in mind, that you're preparing your budget for total cost. You're not just preparing the budget for the award that you're receiving from the city of Chicago. So just keep that in mind. When we're doing the budget, we do the budget for everything that is going to cost us. Next page. And so here is just a slide that says to you what are the sections of the budget. It's header and body and signatures. And next slide. So this is what it looks like right here, the actual form, where we have 1 being the header, 2 being the body of the form, and 3 being the signature area of the form. So in taking a look at this, try to get it where you can see the color. So you can see in the header information, you have a lot of data to input in the header information. In the body of the form, though, you see you have nothing to input. Nothing is input in the body of the form. And then finally, in the signature section of the form, you should sign the form. So let's move on along here quickly. So here is the namings of the header information, where you see you'll have your name and the supplier funding strip, all that kind of good stuff. PO number, you'll know that sometimes those are, they'll call them your contract number, your PO number. They'll say the whole thing, the purchase order number. Sometimes you may call it requisition number, all this kind of stuff. But you got to know, these are things, though, that you need to know in order to complete your budget. You should know that this is a 2018 budget allocation, and therefore you should know the term, that is the length that this program is going to run. You should know the department that you're receiving this award from, and you should know the program name that you're preparing this budget for. And you're going to know your delegate agency name. Now, when you come down, you're going to note that because this is all youth funding, all of our youth funding is corporate funded, so it will be no catalog or federal domestic assistance number. That will be capital N /A. So you're just noting that there is no CFDA number. You should note your funding strip But these are the things that I'm going to say. These three things that I'm going to say now, you don't want to guess on. The funding strip and or the release number. Now, those are two things that you can leave blank when preparing the budget, but the purchase order number, you must know that. You can't submit the budget to us without that number because we wouldn't know what to do. So you have to make sure that you know your purchase order number, and that number is found either in your award letter or some sort of documents that you're getting from the department's contracts unit. Go ahead, Victor, let's change it. So again, we're just showing some information that's listed in the header information of the form, but we wanted to stress these things. Who's ever preparing this budget, that's whose name we want to have in the preparer's name. We want that person's telephone number and that person's email address. What we don't want is a person who has no idea of how this budget was prepared listed as the contact. We don't want to have to call A so that A can go and get B so that B can answer our questions. What we'd like is for B to be listed as the contact. Now, if that's not how your organization policy works, then you follow your policy. However, I would definitely recommend that you have a person who has knowledge of the budget and the preparation listed so that if there are questions, we can contact that person. Because if we can't contact that person, that's just going to hold up the process. Okay, Victor. So again, we're showing the picture of the budget form, so you can take a look at it. Here we show the body of the form is all no shaded area, no data would be input. The header shaded, you fill in all where it's shaded, and then you got the signature page. Come on, Victor. So these are some examples too of the types of costs where you would show for personnel costs, some salaries and stipends and so forth, fringe benefit costs, you got operating costs. Come on, Victor. And we have some professional technical costs, travel, materials and supplies, equipment, which we don't normally budget. So, you know, if you're ever finding yourself having to budget an item in the equipment line, before that is done, you should reach out to the department. Come on, Victor, next one. And then we got indirect costs. So you want to show the budget, that cost, and indirect that is not directly identifiable. And you want to make sure that you have an approved indirect rate. If you have an approved indirect rate, then you'll be budgeting whatever that rate is. If you do not have an approved indirect rate, then you're allowed to budget the de minimis rate. However, if budgeting the de minimis rate, then you have to prepare a letter that says you have not applied for indirect rate, or that your indirect rate does not exceed the de minimis rate of 10%. And then we have other program costs. And this is where we show all expenditures that don't fit in all the categories above. Okay, Victor. And then, again, this is then completing the body of the budget right here, again, and the extensions. Again, you want to just make sure that you take note, the electronic version of the budget form will automatically transfer the total personnel and fringe benefit amounts from the link form 2 and non-personnel amounts from the individual line items from the link form 3 to the body of form 1, completing columns 3 through 5. This is where you'll see from the form, the body of the form has no shade in it because you don't input data in the summary form. In order to complete the body of the summary form, you'll have to complete forms 2, any extensions, or form 3. Go ahead, Victor, hit it. So here we would just telling you the purpose of the form here is for personnel costs for Form 2. Just again, reading the note that everything is linked, and you will be only able to input data in the shaded areas only. Again, more information on the form, header information, it's linked, personnel allocation, it's linked, total fringe benefit allocation, it's also linked. Remember that you're only going to be showing data in the shaded areas. Here's again just another an example of the form for you to take a look at. So on the form here, we wouldn't have to input data on Form 2 where it shows A, B, C, or E. You can see they're not shaded in. The only thing that we have to fill in on Form 2 in the header information is we got to put in our federal employer identification number. So we got to put our FIN in, and then we have to come on down and complete the body. So when we complete the body, what we were looking at here is some important points here now when we're completing the body. So when we're completing the body of the form, we'll list all the positions that are required to meet the final goal of our program. So that is to say, we won't just list positions that we're going to budget as part of the award. We list positions that are required to meet the end product. So that's everybody who's going to be on this required in order to get to the end product will be listed on the budget. So anytime now that we have any position listed, we don't want to identify a name with that position. We only want to show the position. We then show that the number for that position is always 1. If it is the same title and same rate of pay, then you still don't show that position as 2 or 3 or whatever it is. You would show that position listed, the title 3 times, the same number 1, same rate of pay, the line would be the same. How we would differentiate that line, though, if the positions titles are the same, we would add a suffix to the end of the position. So if we're budgeting teacher, for example, and we're going to have 3 of them, we would have either teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, or we have teacher A, teacher B, teacher C. Some way that we're able to differentiate, and we'll be making sure that when we prepare our vouchers, that this is how we would show the positions on our vouchers as either A, B, 1, 2, so forth and so on. Anytime we need more than 6 positions listed on the budget, then we will use the extension sheets A, B, or C, and we'll list them the same way here. We just want to make sure that we show the positions, no titles, adding suffix for all the positions that are duplicates. Any type of number that we're going to be showing for that position, again, is going to be a 1. The yearly and or hourly rate is what it is. It is either the yearly rate or it is the hourly rate. Yearly meaning if you make $35,000 a year, then the rate would be $35,000. Hourly rate meaning if you make $15 an hour, then the rate there would be $15. The number of pay periods. Now, this is an important column. The number of pay periods should coincide with the number of times an individual will be paid during our program. So let's say we're running a summer program, and this summer program is going to be ran for 3 months. I'm going to make this up now, that we're going to run the program in 3 months, and the individual will be paid during these 3 months twice a month. Therefore, the number of pay periods we would show here would be 6. Twice for each month, 3 months. 3 times 2, 6 pay periods. We would next show the hours per pay period if an employee is hourly only. So if we list in column 3 an amount of $15, then we know we have to show column 5 the number of hours this individual will work per week. If we're listing an amount of $35,000 in column 3, then we know there's going to be no hours worked in column 5. So how we know we're using column 5 is if we're using an hourly rate in column 3, then we know we have to give the number of hours for column 5. If we're using a yearly rate in column 3, then there are no yearly hours for column 5. Next is going to be the time spent on the project. The time spent on the project is basically going to say, during the time of our program, the individual that is listed in the budget, if he comes to work one 8-hour day, of that 8-hour day, how much of his time would he spend working on our program? You would have to try to equate that to for our example, if this is a summer program, you would have to try to equate that down to 3 months of his out of his yearly working with you, unless it is a person that you hire specifically for the summer program, and then you lay them off as soon as the program is over. You know, it's going to be 100% of their time. But again, if it's going to be an individual that's going to be working on anything other than our program, then you have to make sure that you show the time that's only related to our program. Then once you've now shown the number, the rate, the hours, the form will then automatically calculate total cost. So once the form has calculated total cost, then it's now your decision to say, how much of that total cost do I want to budget to the grant award? And then there's a rule for that, and that rule, I think we'll go over it as a slide for that. The rule for determining the grant award share as it relates to total cost, the grant award share can be equal to or less than total cost. The grant award share can never exceed total cost. If the grant award share is equal to the total cost, then the other share would be 0. If the grant award share is less than total cost, then the other share would be the difference between the total cost and the grant award share, and that's you then saying you're going to pay for a portion of this. Now, the grant award share can also be 0, and then you know that if the grant award share is 0, then you're definitely saying you're picking up all of the positions. And this is where you want to be able to show positions listed on the budget that are required to meet the outcomes of the program, but that will not be charged to our program. This is where you would show that position as a total cost, and that cost would all be borne by you. So then we will come down. Next section of the form would then be the fringe benefits section. So in the fringe benefits section, what we want to do is we want to just make sure that we're charging fringe benefits proportional to the amount that is charged salaries. So if we charge, so we have a total cost of $25,000 for fringe benefits, and we charge $12,500 of that to the grant award. So we say we're charging half of the total cost. So only half of the total cost of the fringe benefits can then be charged to our program. Okay? So we want to make sure that when we're completing the budget, that we let the form compute total cost, then we apply the rule for the grant award share. We only want to fill in sections where there are yellow. So if anywhere on this budget, on this form 2, or any of its extensions, if you show a number, then you have to have the yellow sections filled in. Take, for example, if you show in the fringe benefits section, row 14, other, you will be telling us that it is a fringe benefit other than Social Security, other than Medicare, other than unemployment, other than workers' compensation, but you got to say, then what is it? So you can't leave that section right there, yellow, that yellow section blank, but you saw a number budgeted. You have to be able to say what that is. You got to know what we're paying for, and then you got to make sure that you're showing the computations for all of the figures that you have budgeted. Computations should be all based upon total cost, and then remember, you're applying the rule for the grant award share, equal to or less than total cost. Okay, so we got our form together. We just, to quickly recap on Form 2, we're going to show all positions that are necessary to meet the goal of the program. We're going to show multiple positions on multiple lines, and we will identify those positions with the suffix A, B, C, 1 or 2, so forth. We will make sure that all sections of the form that are yellow are flowing through. You'll make sure that the form actually does flow. So when you see a total cost, you shouldn't see a total cost of $7 million on one line. You know, if you see something really big like that, then you know you probably did something wrong where you show a rate plus you show some hours. If you show a $35,000 rate and you show 40 hours, you're going to get a really big total cost. So you don't want to have that. So just want to make sure that whenever we did that everything flows and that you show in all the positions, that you then, again, apply the rule. You show in the job descriptions, too. This is important, too. In the job description, we don't, at this point, we don't need to see the resume. What we want to see is for an executive director, we would just oversee the program. But we want to be able to show anything that the auditor is going to need when reviewing your vouchers in this section. So, for example, if we have an hourly position and where we anticipate the position to work, 5 hours, 6 hours every day, but there could be a time where the position works 8 hours, then you want to make sure that you show in the job responsibilities that the time for this position may vary. And this is this way where when we're now getting ready to prepare our vouchers, because remember now the budget is our blueprint for preparing our vouchers. So when we get ready to prepare our vouchers, we're now not just stuck to column 7, because that's what we were going to end it with, column 7. Because column 7 now, guys, is the column that when you finish this, you got to be able to look at column 7 and say, can I now be paid all of my grant award share if I'm only going to be paid, for example, 4, 5, 7 times, and column 7 says I'm only going to receive $1, and I'm only going to pay it 7 times. So I can only bill a city for $7, but I see my grant award share is $10. That's a problem. You now got to, you want to make sure that if you're trying to exhaust the grant award share, that the column 7, when you do the multiplication times the number of pay periods that you're going to bill us for equals column 8. If it does not, you got to figure out something. You got to figure out something's going wrong. Something's not going to work out for you. Because again, if you're saying you're going to be paid, like I'm saying here in this example, 6 times, 7 times, whatever it is, and we do the multiplication, and it does not come out to equal the grant award share, that's basically saying now that we're going to leave money on the table. And we should not be leaving money on the table for payroll. Should be a simple column 7 is there. That's the reason column 7 was added to the form, so that you can look at column 7 and you can say to yourself, based upon column 7 and the number of times that I'm going to bill the city, that I will receive all of my payment for this position. So column 7 is a really, really, really big column, and that's a new column for the form. It's not really new, it's been around a couple of years now, but just again, one of the things you want to pay close attention to is column 7 when you finish. Because again, column 7 is the amount that you can bill for per pay period for every position that you have listed. Come on, baby. So right now, this is all of the stuff that we just went over here. All of the header information, all the forms too, everything is linked. Remember the shaded areas and all that stuff. Come on, Victor. This is what the form looks like, the extension to Form 2. So it's the exact same form, except it gives more lines. You want to make sure that if needing to use the extension, that we go in order. We go from 2 to 2A, from 2A to 2B, from 2B to 2C. We don't go from 2 to 2C, okay? So you want to make sure that if we're using 2C, then we have filled in all of 2A, and we have filled in all of 2B, okay? Next slide. Next slide, Victor. Same, you can give you to show you what they look like, 2B and 2C. Here they are. These are what you can take a look at. You're going to have them. Next slide, Victor. So again, here's all the information that we've gone over with when we talked about the form itself. This is all the header information that you want to make sure of, noting that for Form 2, the only header information that you have to complete is your FIN number. Remember that we're working only in the shaded areas only. And here, all of the things that we went over, noting that position titles, note that if we do any type of duplicates, that we add in a suffix. We are, again, for column 2, we only show the number 1. Any positions that are multiple, we should list them multiple times. And that's why we, if need be, we use the extension sheets 2A, 2B, and 2C. And then we have our yearly and hourly rates, all these things we've talked about already. So on Victor, we'll hit it. Same thing here for our column 4. We just, again, we only want to show the number of pay periods for the individual, the number of times the individual will be paid during our program. And we want to show the time spent on a program. And again, that's the time this individual is going to spend on our program out his whole day and or year. Come on, Victor, hit it again. And then this is, as we said, we know we got new to the form is our column 7. That's our big column. We make sure that we can actually do the math when we finish, that when the form is finished, if we're saying we're going to be paid 6 times during our program year, that we take that 6 and multiply it times column 7 to make sure that it does equal the total grant award column 8. If it does not, then you know that you're going to be either you're going to say, I'm going to be leaving money on the table, I'm going to budget leaving money on the table, or there's something wrong and you need to go back and take a look. Hit it. And again, we got the grant award share. The grant award share is where we are applying the rule. Here's the rule. The grant award share can be equal to or less than total cost. The grant award share can never exceed total cost. And how do we know if the grant award share has exceeded total cost? One way you know right off the top, you can never have a negative other share number. So anytime you have an other share number on the form that is negative, you have now budgeted an amount, a grant award share higher than your total cost. All right, next slide. And so here we are then showing our other share, and so you know the formula for other share. The other share is the total cost minus the grant award. Okay, that's your other share. So you never want to have other share negative. If your other share is negative, you're saying that it costs, that you want to budget more than it costs you, and you can't do that. Remember, shaded areas. All right, and then we're finishing this up with our column 11. That's our job responsibilities. Remember, here you want to be brief in the duties, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that you show the reader of this form. And when I say the reader, this is going to be the person who's going to be reviewing your vouchers, anything that he needs to know that's out of the ordinary. Like how we said here, where we said a person could be working 4 hours a day, but some days he may work 8. So then we would show in the description that the time on this program will vary. And once we've gotten through column 11, our salary allocation is now complete. We just make sure that we're doing everything, inputting data. We're not leaving any sections that are shaded blank. All right. And then we come down to our fringe benefits section. So for our fringe benefits section, you want to let the form do the cost for FICA, and then you'll apply the rule for your share of that FICA cost. The form is automatically going to show FICA cost. If for some reason your organization is not paying into Federal Insurance Contribution Act, then you would have to just give me a call, let me know what's going on, and we can work that out with you. But at the bare minimum, the form is going to show FICA. All other forms of fringe benefit you would have to show. So you would show the total cost of that fringe benefit. You would identify what it is and how much of that fringe benefit you want to charge for our program. Just remembering that for the fringe benefits section, we charge fringes proportional to the amount that we've charged salaries. So if we've charged 50% of the total cost of salaries to the program, then we can charge 50% of the fringe benefits to the program. If we've charged 35% to the program, then 35% of the fringe benefits will be charged to the program. Next. All right. So yeah, again, we're finishing up on the fringe benefits. We just want to make sure that we, again, remember the proportional rule, and we only want to show the costs that are necessary for the fringe benefits that are being paid necessary for our program. Next. And here we are, fringe benefits here, where you can see some, I think there's some examples, 2 or 3 examples in here. We'll go through this one where we have a total cost of $25,000 and a total grant award share of that $25,000 at $15,000. So the computation of grant award share divided by the total cost would be $15,000 divided by $25,000, which equals 60%. Therefore, only 60% of the FICA cost and any other fringe benefits can be charged to our program. And you have a couple of examples like that during the slides, but that's the proportional rule that you want to just make sure that you're following when you're budgeting fringe benefits. Go ahead and hit it. Another example, hit it again. And one more example right here. This is basically an example saying you're going to pay for all of everything. So hit it again. And then we got fringe benefits, just the other types, unemployment, workers' comp, and whatever else you're going to do. Just make sure that you identify what they are and show the computations of how you determine the total cost. Same rule, proportional. So just remember when budgeting the grant award share of the total cost of fringe benefits, that you remember to budget proportional to the total cost of the salaries charged to the program. All right, so here we go, finishing up fringe benefits. We got our other shares, all the same. Everything is other shares, the difference between the total cost and the grant award share. So you just, if you need to figure that out, you note this: never have a negative. Other share can never be negative. And then total personnel cost now complete once we've now completed the fringe benefits section. So when we're looking at Form 2 now, there should be anywhere where we have a budgeted total cost, all yellow shaded areas should have data input, and there should also be either a 0 as the grant award share or an amount listed as grant award share. So then with personnel being complete, we move right on into the non-personnel form. So our non-personnel form is where we would show all costs other than personnel, right? So we remember that we're just going to keep the shaded rule. Only data we're going to input is where it's shaded. Come on, Victor. We got the same like before, where header and body and so forth and so on. Come on, header, all linked. Here's where we look at it. We can see the form right here. So it's the same as Form 2. We have to make sure that in the header, the only portion that we're going to input is our federal employer identification number. All other information will be linked to whatever you've input as the header on Form 1. So for our body now, here's our body of our form. In this one, we see all of this yellow one. This is where we would first show whatever the total cost is of whatever these non-personnel expenditures is. For example, if we have professional and technical service costs, we would have to know what that total cost is. And we would list all of the total costs from column 5 for all of our operating costs, our travel, materials and supplies, our equipment, indirect, and all of our others. We would show all of those total costs in column 5. We would then describe those total costs in column 6. And what we want to do in column 6 when we're describing the costs that make up our total costs is we only have a small section that we can input data in column 6, but we want to be as detailed as possible here. So in column 6, when you're typing all this detail you get through, you have to make sure that you can see the first word that you typed and that you can see the last word that you typed. If you can't see the first and the last word that you typed, then you've typed too much for this section And what you should be doing now is eliminating all of that, copy and pasting it, cutting it from this section, pasting it onto a Word document, and showing in this section 6 now, see attachment. If we're going to be showing an attachment, so we will go ahead and label it as see operating cost attachment. And now when we do the Word document, we would label it as operating cost justification attachment. So this is now, and we would laundry list all of the operating costs that we have in that document now. And we would show that as now our support. And we would do that for all categories that we have listed here. We would make sure that we can see the first word that we have typed, that we can see the last word. If we can't, then we add an attachment. One of the things that we want to make sure that when we're budgeting professional and technical services, that we note this is a section for contractual services only. So if we're budgeting anything in professional and technical services, these would be consultants that are under agreement between you and the consultant. So you have to make sure that you have a contract in place if you're budgeting anything in professional and technical services. And you also have to have, it's liability insurance. Professional liability insurance is also required if you are going to be budgeting professional and technical services. So you make sure that you have those, to have that if you're going to budget that, and Nicole will go over that when she talks also. And then we show in travel, we want to make sure that we show the travel, and we should describe all costs that you consider travel. So you put them in, if you consider them to be travel, you go ahead and list them. If we have questions about them, we'll let you know. Again, same with your materials and supplies. You list everything that you consider materials and supplies, remembering that when you're describing these costs, you want to describe everything that you possibly think that you could have to pay for in running this program. Now, it doesn't make a difference whether or not you actually utilize that cost. What we want to do is just make sure that we have the cost list just in case we have to utilize it, okay? So we want to make sure we have all of our supplies that we can think of for running the program. Remembering our equipment line is a line that we do not use. If we're thinking that we have to use this equipment line, before we budget anything there, we reach out to the department for guidance. Then we have our indirect line. For our indirect costs, again, we will be remembering that in order to budget for indirect, we have to have either an approved indirect rate or we have to be using the de minimis rate. If we're using the de minimis rate, then we have to have a letter go along with the budget that indicates that we have not applied for a rate or that we don't have a rate exceeding the de minimis, exceeding or less than the de minimis amount. For example, if you have a rate of approved indirect rate at 4%, then you cannot say, well, I want to use a de minimis rate because it's 10%. No, you have to use your 4%. If you have an approved indirect rate at, say, 18%, then you're able to use your 18% rate, or you can use a rate less than 18%. But again, you have to be able to show, the number one thing here is that you have an approved rate or that you have not applied for a rate. And then we want to show all of our other costs. All of our other costs would be all of the costs that don't fit into any of the categories above. So if they don't fit in any of these categories, we will list them here as other. We will want to make sure that we show what that other is, though. We will make sure we indicate what it is, and then we'll show, again, attachments. If we can't, indicate all of the information. So we want to make sure that in preparing this document right here, that we are listing what we call buzzwords in column 6. And those buzzwords would be the words that you would be using when you're preparing your vouchers. So you would indicate, you would ask to be reimbursed for nothing that you have not indicated in column 6. Anything that you've indicated in column 6, you can ask to be reimbursed for by using the word that is actually listed from the budget column 6. All right, let's hit it. Now, this is what we just going to go over. We're not going to go over it. This is what we all just talked about when we were looking at the form. All of your name and, you know, the issuing department, all this type of stuff, all that stuff is all linked already to the other forms. The one thing to note again is that you just have to remember for forms 2 and 3, you have to input your federal employee identification number, and you're only inputting data in the shaded areas. Oh, we're going to zip through here. And so now, again, this is all just what we just went over, the grant award share and total cost. So we did the total cost. So what we want to talk about now is just the grant award share. So in the grant award share, go ahead, Victor. We got the rule here, but hopefully I'm sure. Column to description. Come on, hit it again. We're gonna do it. Go back, Victor. Go back. All right. So we remember we're going to show the rule where we went over from the beginning, that where we show total cost, then in order to budget the grant award share, we apply the rule. The grant award share can be equal to or less than total cost. Grant award share can never exceed total cost. And remember that we can't have no negative figures in other share. Just reading the note here, we want to show, again, all calculations, everything you can possibly think of that you think someone else needs to be aware of, you want to show. And laundry list, everything in the description for everything that you can possibly come up with. And then remembering that is shaded areas only. Come ahead, Victor. And so then we're going to do some budget reviews for Form 1. Review. So remember, all shaded areas, we're doing the total grant award column is equal to the amount of award received from the city. The other share column never has negative figures, and total cost column is equal to the total cost of the program, and that's what we're always doing the budget for, the total cost. Come on, Victor. Remember to have the authorized person sign the budget, and we're recommending signing in blue ink. City of Chicago has signed. Just want to note, budget is not executed until the City of Chicago has signed it. You can get a copy of the budget from the website listed below. And then common challenges. We have math areas. So while we recommend that it is a must that you use our form, eliminates the math errors, and then you want to make sure that you have good justification for everything you do. If there is a need to share any costs, you have a good cost allocation plan. You stay within the original line items of your budget. However, if the need arises, you prepare a budget revision. All right, and so now we got budget revision. So budget revision is basically the exact same way that you prepare your initial budget, except when you're looking at the forms required now, there's a new form, and it is 1A. So it will be still 1, 2, and 3, but you now have to include 1A. 1A is what revised the budget. Come on, hit it, Victor. And so you're going to have the purpose of the form. Come on, hit it, Victor. And you get same headers, no change. Hit it, go ahead, Victor. Here's the form. So when we're looking at the form, we're getting ready to do, if we need to revise our budget. In revising the budget, you always want to work with the initial file that you used to create the budget. And now the budget revision is easy to do. So if you're using the file that you used to create the budget, you will come in here into Form 1A. And the only place in this form that is shaded is the approved budget column. You'll input what your current approved budget column is, and then you'll go to Forms 2 and 3, and you'll make your budget changes. Once you make your budget changes, you'll come back to Form 1A, and you should see then those changes reflected in the revision column. If you're reducing salaries, you should see salaries then go down. If you're increasing salaries, you should see salaries go up. The number one thing here that we want to be able to make note of is that the total, the bottom line, should always equal 0, and that column 5, when we're revising the column, it will equal the amount of your award. If you're never to give yourself a raise or anything here, it is you can revise your individual line items, but you're not to add money unless you're getting some additional funds. Come on, Victor. And then we got budget revision form right here. 2s and 3s are all the same. You know, you do all of this stuff, budget revision 2 and 3, all the same. Come on, let me finish it. Let's go finish it. And you know, you got some do's and you got some don'ts. So you got to monitor your expenditure rates. You got to. And you got to request budget revisions as you deem necessary, and always provide prevailing justification. Come on, man, you got one more. Don't. Now, here's the one you got to do. It's important now. Don't wait until the award is expired to request a budget revision. Now, this is important now. You don't want to shift dollars on your vouchers. Do a budget revision if you're going to shift. Don't assume that a budget revision will automatically approve by exceeding line items before official approval. Do a budget revision if you need. Come on, baby. And then don't change the original shares. You know, unless you've done a budget revision, the numbers should stay the same. Hit it. And then we got some contacts here. So we just want to make sure that, you know, now with the introduction of e-procurement, your budget is your blueprint for preparing your vouchers, and you know your vouchers now, at least I hope you do know that your vouchers now are to be submitted in e-procurement. So we want to make sure that you have registered, and that if you have any questions on registered, there's the site, that you have any type of issues when you're trying to prepare anything in the site, that you use OBM. Here is a really good site for training materials. It's really good. Got all type of videos and everything here for you to take a look at. And then there is, make sure that you have registered your delegate agency. If not, there's the file. There we go. Here it is. And we're happy that we're finished. Here's Victor. So we're going to save it for the end for questions, and, you know, Nicole's up.
Okay, so I humbly want to thank Walter for giving us a very thorough recap of what needs to be done. We are going to make sure that what happens today, you will get the recorded presentation, if not today, tomorrow. You will get a link. We will send the link out to you where you can find everything that we've talked about today. And so you'll have all of the websites that Walter referred to, his do's, his don'ts, excuse me, and any other information, excuse me, that you may have missed. One thing I do want to add to what Walter said when he was talking about the operating area, if you are asking for rent to be paid, you must, at the time of submitting your budget, you must also submit a lease. If you are asking for rent and you don't submit a lease, what happens is it slows down the process of this document. So please make sure that a lease is submitted if you are asking us to also take part of paying your rent. Not sure, Walter, we can ask about this, but one of the questions I have, when they give us their paper copy of the budget, are we expecting logos to be on the top of this page?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we are.
So on the form he showed, you didn't see the logos, but when you print it out, yes, on the top left-hand corner, yep, you should see
Family and Support.
Family and Support Services, and on the right-hand side, you will see the City of Chicago seal. Those two logos must be on the top of the page prior, you know, when you submit your budget, or it will be rejected.
And since she's adding that, also, the budget signature should have my name at the bottom. So right, if you're using another unit's form, that also will be unacceptable.
And the way you receive the documents, they should be what should be in portrait should be in portrait, and what should be in landscape should be in landscape. If you alter the way the forms are actually laid out, they will also be rejected.
So that's a good one.
So keep in mind.
So that's a good one, that when you're printing it now, all pages print on one document. Right. One page. Okay. So if you're doing the summary, it's one page. It's not two. Whatever page you're doing, it's one page. It's not two. So if you're getting 2 pages, then the format is off. And if you need to, give me a call or give any of the accountants a call. You got their numbers. And
what I want to reiterate is that this particular program, youth, like Walter said, it's all corporate funded. We are no longer CDBG. We have not been CDBG since 2014. FYI. Now we'll go to Nicole, and she will take you through the contract process.
Okay. So go ahead, next slide, picture. Okay, so we're going to go through the documents that we will need. You guys should already be registered in the e-procurement, so some of these documents will be uploaded to e-procurement now. Okay, next slide, Victor. All of these are new contracts, so you will need the agreement page signed in blue ink and notarized. It needs to be notarized when you turn it into your contract liaison. That is the last page of the boilerplate that you received. It has to have your executive director sign the page. Your CCR should be already up to date. Harry Higginbotham will be contacting you if it has not been updated. If not, you will need to submit this form to your contract liaison. This is the form that you'll find in the CM system. Your current certificate of insurance. This must include your workers' comp, your general liability, and as Walter said, if you have anything in that 014 line, 0140 line for the professional and technical, you will need professional liability insurance. You can find all the insurance requirements in Exhibit E. That's the terms and conditions of your contract. Please read this thoroughly. It has all the amounts that are needed for every insurance portion. Your EDS, you'll need an economic disclosure statement that'll have to be submitted to your contract liaison. On the checklist that was sent out with your award letter, on the bottom there shows a link for you to go to. This is where you can pick up the website for the EDS to fill it out. I think most of you guys have done this multiple times, so it should be, yeah, except for your new agencies. That at the very bottom of the checklist, it says, it was the contracting checklist, there is a link for you to go to, and it'll take you right to all the documents that you need, and it'll show you the website for the EDS for you to fill out. You will need to print the certificate out. It's a one-page document. If you print out the 14-page document, that is not what we need. It's just the printed certificate of the EDS. It'll show, it's a P that's in a gray on the EDS signature, on the EDS website. You click that, and that's where you can print out your EDS certificate. The Illinois Secretary of Standing, that is another thing that Terry Higginbotham has been working on, so everybody should already have that updated into the system. She'll contact you if you need anything. The signature authorization form, that is different. You used to submit that to your contract liaison. This will now be uploaded into your e-procurement file. You must keep this updated with all the people that want to sign for your vouchers, or you cannot get paid. If you have a new person, you need to upload a new signature authorization form into e-procurement. The budget and the scope of services, that all goes to the program manager. Next slide, Victor. This is the agreement page again. This must be signed in blue ink and notarized. Must be in blue ink and notarized. The CCR, there's the website that you can go if you need to renew it. It's under the SAMS.gov. Go ahead, next slide, Victor. Certificate of insurance, this is where you also need to submit in the iSupplier. You're supposed to keep your insurance uploaded into iSupplier, but we also need a copy of it here when you come in to seat your contract liaison. You will need to submit this. And please be mindful that if you have professional and technical, you need to have professional liability insurance included on this certificate. The EDS will need to be returned to your liaison as well. This is the website, and also it's under your contract documents. You can click on that link as well. I'll go on, Victor, next slide. Good standing, you can go to the state Illinois website. That's where you fill out all that, and you just have to sign stating that your taxes and all that have been paid, and they'll print a little certificate for you if you want to bring that in. But like I said, if you have not been contacted by Terry Higginbotham, you are in good standing with the state of Illinois. Signature authorization form, that needs to be uploaded in e-procurement. You do not need to turn that into us. We do not require this anymore. It has to be in e-procurement. Next slide, Victor. This is the budget and documents and everything will go to your program manager. Next slide. The scope of services, that'll all go to your program manager. That does not need to be returned to the contract unit, but it must be with the program manager, so it has to be a portion of the contract. Next slide, Victor. Here is the limits for the insurance. These are the current limits that's on the terms and conditions in Exhibit E. You have to have these limits on your insurance. Next slide, Victor. This is a brief requirement. This is what it shows that you need to have covered. Next slide, Victor. This is the e-procurement. These are the documents that need to be uploaded in e-procurement and must stay current. You have to keep these in e-procurement current. All the signature authorization, your cost allocation plan, the audit forms, financial statements, articles of incorporation, everything must be submitted through e-procurement now. We do not keep any of these on file here. Next slide, Victor. And then this is it. That's all my documents. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to take any questions you may have for contracts or for budgets before we go into the program side. Got anything, Victor?
To who do we submit the budget form?
Okay, so your youth services coordinator will do the initial review of your budget as well as your work plan, your scope of services. So by now, everyone should have received an award letter if you were awarded funding for 2018-2019. And on that award letter, you have the program manager that's listed. It will be either Karen Nolan or Cesar Garza. They will work with you to receive these documents. And then some of you, if you did not receive your award letter, I don't know what happens. Sometimes it comes to maybe it always goes to the executive director. And sometimes there's like a lot of layers before it gets to you. So, you know, let me say to go back to your executive director if you have any questions about that award letter. And, you know, if you cannot find it, then reach out to your program manager, either Karen or Cesar, and they will send the letter to you. And again, one of the numbers that Walter talked about that you should know is your PO, your purchase order number, and that is in that award letter. So you can always look for that as well. Okay.
Does the budget need to be uploaded to the new online voucher platform?
No, not at this time. No, not at this time.
So right now, you will submit your budget in paper copy when you submit your work plan. There has been in your award letter, we do something here that's called a roundtable. This is especially new for our agencies that we have new this year. So on that particular date is when you will come down and bring your final documents. And when we go through the program side, I will give you further instructions on what the expectation is.
Halima Bari, I unmuted you. I don't know if we can hear you though.
So Halima, Victor is saying that he unmuted you. Do you have a question that you want to ask?
Halima, if you can dial in using your phone, sometimes it's better for the system to be able to pick you up. And unless you want to go ahead and just type in your question.
The PowerPoint presentation will be shared. We will send you a link, and actually it'll be a link. You'll be able to go right on to YouTube, and you'll be able to have all the documents and all the information that that has been discussed today. Oh, okay. Okay, so Victor just said he just uploaded the information in the handout section, so you have it right now. Oh, Victor. Someone's saying, where is the handout section?
It should be on your panel that you have on the right-hand side of your screen. There should be a handout.
They may have it shrunk. No.
Yeah.
I expanded.
But this will be recorded as well, and it'll be up, and we'll send you the link too. Okay, great.
Okay, she says she sees it now. Okay, great. So we're going to go on to our the program part, and we are moving right along.
All right, guys, we're gonna cut. Well, at least I'm gonna cut. All right.
So Nicole and Walter just left, but again, all of their information will be in the handout section that Victor just sent. And so you did have like the whole, in a sense, department team. You had Walter Brown, Supervisor of Accounting, Nicole, Chief Consultant. Here with me now is Karen Nolan and Cesar Garza, one of the youth, our Youth Services Coordinator, and me, Earlene Whitfield Alexander, Manager of Youth Services. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without Victor Santiago, who is working and running this webinar for us today. And trust me, you know, Victor could have been doing something else today, but consented to work with us. So I really do appreciate it. So now we'll go into the program part of our webinar. And this will be the final part of today's presentation. So, you know where we are, and I always like to talk about our mission for the department because this is new. I think we're like maybe a year and a half in. So working with our community partners, which is you, we connect Chicago's residents and families to resources that build stability, support their well-being, and empower them to thrive. This is what we've been working on since we've had our new commissioner, Lisa Morrison Butler, and so we have rebranded ourselves, and we couldn't do any of this without your support. So, welcome to the Youth Services Division, and who we are. We're committed to creating meaningful and innovative youth programming. We want to offer programs throughout the year, throughout the city, and give our youth the opportunity to participate in highly quality, structured programs in safe environments that build success in school and prepare our youth for bright futures. So today, we will be given a presentation of our enrichment portfolio. Our enrichment portfolio consists of out-of-school time, CHA, project innovation, and then we have contracts that are facilitated, such as ASM, the kitchen community, safe passages, and I think I've covered it. So that's the part of what's in the youth enrichment portfolio. So congratulations. If you're online, you're one of our award recipients. Just to recap, we had 210 RFPs submitted for funding for next year. Out of that, 146 programs were funded, 110 delegate agencies, and we selected these programs and agencies based on our selection criteria, which was how the project itself, the community where you reside, and your score. And now we'll go through our program requirements. So program scheduling. So if you are selected, you have decided you're going to either run programming year-round or school year, and if you have chosen this type of scheduling, there's a requirement of a minimum of 12 hours per week. If your summer and summer school breaks, it should be 5 days a week and 6 hours per day. We serve youth ages 6 to 24, and our average daily attendance requirement is 80%. Program requirements. So we require that you are in our data entry system, and in this case, it is CitySpan. And when you get your work scope, you will see that we break out what it is we expect you to have into CitySpan. Most importantly, we encourage you to put your average daily attendance, at least at the minimum on a weekly basis, although daily is better, but weekly you should have your attendance in the system. In the system is your work plan, your intake forms, your monthly calendar, and your contractual certification information. just note that failure to maintain accurate information in the system will impact your funding. Performance assessment is something that we do on twice a year. So twice a year you will receive a performance rating, and it will capture 2 quarters. So January through March you'll be assessed, April through June you'll be assessed, and then you will receive a performance rating for those 2 quarters sometime in July. And then July, August, and September, and then September, October, November, December is the second part of your performance rating, and that will be done in January or close to February. You will receive the second performance rating for that particular year. So for like 2017, if you've been funded by us in latter part of January, the very beginning of February, you will receive your performance rating for the second one for this year. Programmatic outcomes, I will show you when we get to our work plan, but this year, as well as like last year, they are prescribed. If and when you got your award letter, and if you follow the instructions to go online, the budget as well as the work plan is connected to a link that you can go on, click on, and pull down both your work plan as well as your budget. And you can complete your work plan and then submit it to us, and I'll talk about what that looks like. The other requirement is program staff. When I talk about program staff, I really want to touch on contractual certification information. That's to make sure that your staff who are funded on this particular program, you have your CPR, your mandated reporter, your fingerprints, and your background checks, all of those things that are listed under program requirements in your work plan. Expenditure rate, it is another one of the indicators that we look at when we do your performance rating. In your work plan, we talk about from January to March, you should have expended 20%. The second quarter, April through June, 50%. The third quarter, July through September, 75%. And the fourth quarter, October to December, 100% of your grant should have been expended. Meetings and trainings, we don't have many, and so they're mandatory for you to come and attend. We know that you are really busy, so we try to limit the number of meetings and trainings that we have, and so that's why they're mandatory. Any programmatic changes, you should let your youth service coordinator know, as well as myself. And this year, you'll see in your work scope that we are requiring that you also put that in CitySpan in your work plan so that we can immediately pull this data if we need it, run a report. And then program closure. So if anything is happening where you're closing your program or you're moving to another location, please let us know. So I talked about the program assessment. This is the program performance rating. These are the 3 metrics that we look at: program management, staff compliance, as well as fiscal compliance. We will send you the information in terms of how that's actually broken out, but it does include all of the program requirements that's in your work plan. So if you're following your program requirements in the work plan, you should be meeting your performance rating. Program compliance objectives. So let's go through that, because this is what's in your work plan scope. So we expect that you will have youth enrolled continuously with opportunities. Maintain an acceptable performance rating, ensure programming on a regular cycle, so whether it's school year-round, summer and school breaks. Provide funder with program information and communication along with the prescribed deliverables. Demonstrate fiscal soundness. Your program will show continuous evidence that you are actually soliciting the support of youth in terms of it being a youth-driven program. So, many times we prescribe what it is we want our youth to do, and then our youth don't show up. They're not in attendance because no one has actually asked them for some of the feedback about their programs. And so we're looking at you actually providing the youth with that information. And then the objective, the outcomes, we'll talk about that as we move forward. So we talk about administrative fiscal capability. You want you to maintain fiscal responsibility. Vouchers are to be monthly. You know you will submit them in the e-procurement system. We do have a voucher budget and budget revision policy, which we will send out. The expectation is by January of 2019, you will have expended the entire amount of your grant. Up to a 15% administrative cap. We require a 15% in-kind or cash match. Payments are based on a reimbursement system, so you'll put your voucher in e-procurement, and then you will be reimbursed accordingly. And let me just say, when you submit your vouchers, use your approved budget. On Walter's slide, he gives you a link to contracts, the city website. You can go online with your PO number and you can check to see on your own if your budget has been approved. Once your budget and your contracts have been approved, you do get a notification, but this is one way that you can look yourself. And once your budget has been approved, then you can voucher using that approved budget. The expectation is you're able to sustain your program operations for at least 2 months. So as you begin to, begin your program January 1, you should have those dollars to float until we can get your contract approved. And let me say that, the way to get your contract approved in a really timely manner is to make sure that you turn in all of your documents one time. The final documents when you turn in are the correct documents, and then we can proceed with making, going through the next step of executing your contract. So budget questions, again, that's Walter Brown, Supervisor of Accounting. Here's his email as well as his phone number. Any contract questions, you will refer to Carla Mohammed. Here is Carla's email as well as her phone number. Program division, you can reach out to Karen Nolan or Caesar. Here is their email as well as their phone number. You can reach out to me as well via email. So, during the next couple weeks, what's going to happen is your youth service coordinator is going to reach out to you. She or he will work with you to make sure that your budget as well as your work plan is correct. When you look at your award letter, there is a contract date. Please make sure that you are here on your particular assigned date and appointment. The appointments are set up almost like 5 or 10 minutes apart. So if you have worked with Karen and worked with Caesar during over the next 2 weeks, and they approve your documents, you bring in the final document. When you bring in that final document, please make sure that you bring in the original signed sheet that's on your work plan, and I will go through that, show you that signature page shortly. Make sure that you go through that and you bring that with you. So if there's any changes, those changes can be made at the time that you submit your document. I also am suggesting that you bring a USB that has your work plan on it. So in case there needs to be any changes that can be made on the spot, your youth service coordinator, Karen or Caesar, can make those changes for you, and you can leave your work plan in your budget, and you will be done. So your final work plans are due at your roundtable appointment. So if your appointment is on January the 8th, you will work with Karen or Caesar, and when you bring in your documents on January the 8th, we'll do a final review, and you should be done. Same thing with your work, your budget. CitySpan data training, we know that we have new agencies. We're going to put together a webinar for you. The date will be determined, but you can expect to have training on our data system next month. Voucher training is every third Thursday of each month, and we will begin that in February. So the third Thursday in February, we will begin to train agencies on voucher training, and voucher training is conducted by Arthur Barron. There's his email, and Walter has also put his information on his PowerPoint presentation. So we want to know what's on your mind. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them to us right now. And if not, then we want to thank you for your time today. We know that this was pretty much the last minute, so I really appreciate all of you who had the opportunity to join us. You can also reach out to us individually if you have any questions. And one more final thing, I did want to show you the outcomes in the work plan. Can you switch to that for me, Victor? The work plan, it's on my, you've got it up on the screen already. It's a Word document. Yeah. Can we flip through, and I'll tell you where to stop, because there's a few, yeah, so everything is pretty much the same that we've had in the past. I just want to show them the outcomes. Keep going. Okay, here they are. Up, page 7. So on page 7, there are 4 outcomes that are prescribed. The expectation is that you will put these in CitySpan on a quarterly basis. You can reach out to me if you have any questions about the survey and how you should put them into CitySpan, but next month, the work plan will be up, and you will have in CitySpan these outcomes. And many of you have been doing this already, so there's really nothing new except that we are capturing these prescribed outcomes just to once again see how we are doing as a department. It's never and I got you. It's always what can we do to make sure that we are supporting you correctly. And if there's anything you want to discuss with me regarding those, please shoot me an email. So that's, oh, the signature page. Thanks, Karen. Can you go down, Victor, to the last page, which is the signature page? And this is for our new agencies. This is a signature page. This is the page I'm saying you should bring in its original form in hard copy, signed in blue ink. And so if you have this page and your USB with your work plan on it, then if there needs to be any immediate changes, minor changes that we can make and then print it out, and you can leave it when you have your roundtable appointment, that would be great. Anytime in between then, if you have any questions, please reach out to the parties that are on these particular PowerPoint presentations. Shortly, we will have everything up on the handout section, and we will be sending you the link so that you can go on and look at this recording as well. So I want to thank everyone again for being with us this morning, this afternoon, and wishing all of you and your family a happy holidays. Okay, I see we have some questions. So let me answer these questions quickly. What's the first one?
The amount awarded is less than requested. Can we change our proposed program plan based on the new lower amount?
So if you asked us for $75,000 and you receive $45,000, then your budget should reflect what you were awarded for.
Will copies of the current presentation be made available?
Yes. All righty. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. Again, happy holidays. Bye.